the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FANation? Happy Monday and welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS live stream. I am James Grande, and no, that is not John Impemba. The intro lied. Don't sue us. Like one rap artist may be doing to another rap artist that may have performed at the Super Bowl last night. That is Justin Carlucci. You could follow him on the old X machine at the J Carlucci. Justin, what's going on, brother? Happy Monday.
Pretty good. Happy Monday. I'm here in Pennsylvania. Not an Eagles fan, but most of my friends are, so shout out to them. And I'll say the true ones deserve it. The true Eagles fans deserve it because they also have to put up with the 76ers shenanigans from the past decade. So that's my angle. And boring Super Bowl, bloodbath, but in terms of NBA, it's going to reign king for the next couple of weeks as pitchers and catchers report. And we have the NBA All-Star Weekend, though, which has totally lost its kind of aura with me.
Yes. It's awful.
Got a couple big slates left. That's about it until the break.
Yeah. Are your light poles like down your street? Did you see any like local employees greasing them last night, or what?
No,
are you like out of the fire enough?
I'm far enough from Philly. I'm like 90 minutes north of Philly, but
okay.
People were setting off fireworks and all that stuff. Like, cool. My cats were not thrilled. But
I was gonna say, are you a dog guy? Because that would be the worst. I mean, the animals just and fireworks don't mix in general.
For sure. But put a fork in football season. It was a grind, and here we are, blessed with a Monday night NBA slate where half of the slate has Q tags. So let's take a crack at it, I guess.
They do. Well, half are out, half are Q. We've already got the Giannis Anthony Davis news. Both will be out for extended periods of time. We see the Boston gentlemen, the Jays, not going through a shoot around this morning. So there's a lot to get into, a lot to dissect about this slate, as Justin just alluded to. A lot of questionable tags. I see you guys in the chat. Coach Chris in the chat, just with money symbols. Yes, I agree. I would also enjoy some money symbols in my bank account as well. David, what's up? What's up to you, my friend? RKS, sup, fellas? Sup to you. Good luck tonight. And then some Mohawk fellow in the chat is also saying what up in the chat with a Mohawk that he currently is rocking on screen right now. That was you. Took me a second
to realize I was catching some strays there. I was just like going, oh, cool, got to get out the Mohawk in the chat. Yeah, the pandemic was a time, all right? It's been a while since I updated the
profile. Me too. I think my my PayPal picture is a picture of my dog. My dog's 10 years old, and that was like 9 years ago. So I'm with you on the non-updated photos. But 9 games on tonight's slate. No need to talk about COVID and the weird stuff you may have been doing during that time. But let's get into slate. We're gonna go position by position here. If you guys are new to the channel, we go live Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also record the night before and give you guys a first look, authentic. Like, this is the first time I'm opening a DraftKings slate look of the next day's event. So tune in, lock in, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button if you guys would be so kind. We'd appreciate that as we embark on our journey up to 9,000 subs on the channel. So salute to all you that have already hit the subscribe button and support each and every day. Let's get into the slate here. We'll start at the point guard position. Actually, before that, if you do head over to fantasyalarm.com, we have a 7-day free trial going on. You can see the QR code up there in that corner. And you'd be able to see Justin Carlucci's NBA DFS playbook that's live on site right now with his super hard-hitting analysis, especially when you get to the Nikola Jokic tab. You won't want to miss it. So make sure, 7 days free. Try us out. You won't leave, and we'll, you'll be able to join the Discord. You'll get our, up to the minute after we sign off, up to the second roster decisions we have going on. So do that right now. Go do that right now. Or right after the show, whichever you prefer. Point guard has a bunch of very good basketball players, some who may play, some who may not. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, not on the injury report. LaMelo Ball, not on the injury report. Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, Damian Lillard, all are. So is Steph Curry, although he was seen going through shoot around. We have Kyrie Irving. We'll save Donovan Mitchell, so we have something to talk about at shooting guard. De'Aaron Fox. Tyler Hero was a midday downgrade today. Jamal Murray, probable. What piques your interest $8,000 and up here at the point guard position, Justin?
A lot of it, which could be why, not to jump way ahead, but Nikola Jokic is not projected for much ownership. And there's a wealth of riches paying up for guys, who aren't a lock to hit ceilings, but more times than not will offer a 55 to 60 point ceiling. And, it's very, very interesting. I mean, SGA, I think we're done predicting blowouts. Of course, you would think they hammered down on New Orleans, but SGA has been phenomenal. But I think LaMelo is the intriguing one. Of course, he was on the injury report until a couple hours ago and was upgraded. And I think there's going to be a lot of reluctancy to click that button. And I get it. Brooklyn plays kind of slow. They're not terrible defensively, but they're by no means good. But he played 36 minutes just a few days ago, shot poorly. I mean, we know this guy has 60-point upside. Just a really nice large field tournament option, I think, again, because it looks like no one's going to go here. But that's because, there's so many ways to go on this slate. But I think in about 90 minutes, all hell might break loose even more, and we might get some more value to work with. So I kind of like LaMelo. It doesn't feel great, but it's Brooklyn. It's not like he's playing Boston tonight. It's a winnable game, and he is by far the best player with a chance to have a 40% usage rate if he wants it.
Yeah, Brooklyn currently, they are the slowest pace team in the NBA, but they're also 23rd defensively. So, like you said, it is an exploitable matchup. I think the most important thing maybe you brought up was that the 36 minutes after 10 days off. For a guy with Steph Curry early career ankle issues, right? Like it's just constantly ankles with this guy, and he played 36 coming off an ankle injury. I think that was definitely a good sign. Do you worry about the midday? Not that it was like a midday downgrade. Milwaukee played yesterday, so they didn't have to release their injury report until a specific time. But they did play yesterday. Do you find that concerning with Lillard popping up in the injury report?
I'm not concerned. Like in the sense, if he's out, he's out. I'm like, am I worried about him being quote unquote active and them having a discrete minutes limit? I don't think so either. The last second leg of a back-to-back he played was the end of January, and he ran 38 minutes. So if he's active, I think it's all systems go. And this could be a slight blessing in disguise, because I do think it's a great spot for Lillard. I think it's a great spot. Last 3 games, 36%, 31%, 33% usage rate. No Giannis. Of course, Kuzma coming into town a little bit here. So he has, kind of a running mate who likes to be a bit of a usage hog, but he's kind of in a little bit of a groove right now. If I'm Milwaukee, and again, it's Glenn Rivers and company, so take it with a grain of salt. We're definitely not in the same line of thinking here a lot, but if he's in a groove, I want him to continue that groove. It took a while for him to find his footing this season. So I'm kind of hoping Dame plays, because I kind of want to go there tonight.
Agreed. And I think it's worth noting the groin has been the thing that he's been listed with for like 2 weeks, and now it's a hamstring. So seemingly past the groin, and now it's a new injury. But I think that it's one thing. It's good that it's not the groin on the second leg of a back-to-back, and we're just dealing with whatever this little hamstring soreness is. Steph was seen going through shoot around. Stephen Curry is shooting so many 3-pointers tonight. Do you expect them to continue? Like, do you expect the volume to continue to be there? Do we like Steph at 8,700? What's your take on Steph in this range?
I don't really have a take. I mean, I'm more so always concerned about the minutes, and there are frequent times where he is not capped around 29, 30, 31, but it seems like there are large portions of the season where that's what he plays, but they are desperate and they need to re-click together, especially after the trade, and they need to keep winning. And you see those minutes on that game log. They have a great opportunity against Milwaukee on the second leg of a back-to-back that I don't know if he's going to keep shooting threes, but he's the best shooter arguably of all time. So let's hope so. I mean, I'm multi-entering tonight. I would be smacking my head off my desk if I was playing one lineup. So I will do my best to give the single entry analysis to you if John raises his hand. But like in a vacuum, Curry and Lillard are too cheap for their roles in the situation.
Yes, Steph is not getting ownership. I mean, am I missing something here? Am I? Oh, he is. Okay, I take it back. He's the third highest rostered point guard of the day. To pretend like that moment didn't happen. Under $8,000 at point guard. We have some good basketball players here. Darius Garland, Malik Monk, Jordan Poole, Anthony Simons, Derek White, potentially without the Jays. Scoot, D'Lo questionable. What do we got from like the sub 8K to 6K range? Anything stick out?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Poole is going to carry some rightful ownership. His usage has kind of been all over the place. The trade deadline's passed. They have no reason to baby him at this point in time anymore. He's had some tough matchups. I mean, if you just look at his game log, Minnesota, slow and good defensively. Charlotte was a dud, but it's Jordan Poole. Brooklyn, only 29 minutes, 36 fantasy points. They play really slow. I think that would have been fine if he played, 36, 37 minutes. In sheer unpredictable Jordan Poole-ness, he went for 60 against Cleveland, right? But if the game is fairly competitive, those are the kind of minutes we're going to see from him on this Washington team, and they just refuse to bump his price up. So, I'm not saying I'm in love with Jordan Poole in this slate, but he'll definitely be in the player pool.
Yeah, highest rostered point guard of the day currently, and you brought it up like. This is the second time you've talked about like competitiveness. That Cleveland-Washington game on that slate, I remember sitting here on that Friday saying, man, we got 2 18-plus point spreads on this out of 6. And that game was a barn burner, and so was OKC in Toronto until like the late in the fourth quarter. So it is just very random, dude. The Sixers had like 200 points from Embiid and Tyrese Maxey yesterday and outright loss. So like the NBA is a wild place. If people get hot, they get hot. And Jordan Poole feels like a pool party tonight. Not my words, that's his. I like Anthony Simons always in tournaments personally. The guy just needs to make shots, and that's what we've gotten lately out of Anthony Simons. And Denver's blowing teams out, but to your Jokic point, we need games to be competitive for Nikola Jokic to pay off. We've seen it multiple occasions, last 2 slates. It's been Jamal Murray extended based on their rotations, where Jokic plays whole first, whole third. If that game's not competitive, he's not playing again, and we've seen that. So Jamal Murray's played 38 minutes, and Michael Porter's played 40, and Christian Brown's played 40, because they're all on the different rotation patterns. This guy needs to score in order to keep Portland close. And obviously Portland's been very good lately. They've won 8 of their last 10, and I think 10 of 12 overall, or 10 of 13, whatever the number is. And in large part, Anthony Simons has been balling. So I like Simons just to add to your pool party there in the mid-tier.
Right under Simons. I'm hoping the Boston News breaks at the good old 7:01 Eastern, because I just want like as much ownership discount on the Celtics as we could get. I know it's kind of an ugly matchup, but listen, Drew Holiday's out. Tatum and Brown miss shoot around. We both know that typically bodes poorly for their availability. Not them specifically, but just collectively. Players who miss shoot around don't typically play. I'm willing to bet one of Tatum or Brown definitely sits. And what are your thoughts? I feel like they're both going to sit. If you're not at shoot around, you're probably not going to play. And there's not much of a sample size without Drew, Tatum, and Brown on the floor. excuse me, my cat is catting. We have just 40 some odd minutes of Derek White. Take it for what it's worth. 30% usage rate without the trio of Celtics on the floor. And a lot of that time was not with Porzingis, though, because of all the time he missed. Right. But you would just imagine, I'm totally guessing here that if, the trio of Celtics misses tonight, that White and Porzingis should, in theory, both look at like a bare minimum 25% usage rate and probably higher. So, like, I don't care that it's Miami. We are going to prioritize possible usage increase here. Like, I want the Derek White ownership discount and Porzingis. And then you got to talk about which role players you prioritize. And that kind of becomes a nightmare, though. But that's a different conversation.
Yes. So my opinion usually on Boston is Tatum is the guy that I always expect to play. Because he's gone on multiple rants about, like, I will always play if I can because kids come to my games that I only go to cities once every year to see me play. And I try to, and he has been very open about this. And he gave a specific example. He's like, Monday night in Charlotte. And then last year he scored like 55 actual in Charlotte on a Monday night. It was like out of a movie. I don't know if he like saw the schedule ahead of time, but he just like, that was just what he said into this camp. And then he did it. So my assumption is Jason Tatum always plays until he's ruled out, essentially, because he has been very durable throughout his career. I'm not so sold that Brown plays, but I do agree. I think one of them sits, and I'm under the assumption Tatum is the guy who. I saw the tail end of that walking across the keyboard. I'm happy to see you're still here, and your cat didn't just like hit the escape button and suddenly your whole computer was crashing down to earth. But yeah, I assume one of the Jays sit. I would assume it's more likely to be Brown, but we'll see. There's been no indication, no shoot around for either. They don't play a back-to-back. Like they're not playing tomorrow, so it's like there's not a lot to go off there. So
that's a realistic hypothetical, and this is our floor time to speculate here. If Tatum plays and Jalen's out, that leaves you with Tatum, Derek White, Porzingis, Pritchard, and Horford, and some Sam Hauser. That's like your reasonable rotation. Who would you end up prioritizing from this team if that's the case?
Tatum, Porzingis, Pritchard, White. I'm not a big Sam Hauser enthusiast. Because usually what they'll do is Pritchard won't start. It doesn't matter. I think if all other four starters were out, they would not start Peyton Pritchard. They just prefer to bring him off the bench. But they close halves and quarters with Peyton Pritchard. So, like, it would be White, Porzingis, Tatum, and Pritchard would be the four that I would be heaviest on.
I like that. Tatum could go from completely not in the conversation to, like, being the GPP priority.
Correct.
If the news breaks correctly. The Pritchard's role is so fluky sometimes. Who was it the Thursday game or the Friday game? They were blowing out, was it Dallas? And he closed.
They were getting blown out by Dallas, and he closed with the third straight.
He played the whole fourth quarter with the G League guys. And he oftentimes flirts in that no man's land where he's a valuable piece of that rotation. They don't want to run him out there when they're down 30. So, I'm not saying this game's going to be a blowout, but if for some reason it is, because this thing could just be all out of whack with a couple guys being sick and no continuity, that there's a chance Pritchard's minutes are solidified no matter what. So not extremely interested with him unless we get more news that breaks, but he could be a big part of our conversation too.
I'm typically at least, give a little like eyebrow raise if like Drew is out for Pritchard. Not necessarily at this price. The price is obviously elevated due to 2 big games in a row, but there are they'll start Horford. If everyone else is in, they'll start Horford, and then it just, situational. If Horford's playing well, they close with Horford. If Peyton Pritchard's playing well, they close with Pritchard. if there's two starters out, you can almost guarantee Peyton Pritchard in the closing lineup. Like it's almost a foregone conclusion that he will close halves. So then it's just how much do you trust Pritchard at $5,800? That would be my because I even made the argument last night when John and I were doing the show for 5,400, and we actually this is perfect segue, and we'll get to some comments in a second, but I just saw Anthony's comment pop up in the chat that Castle is the new Pritchard. And you look at Stephon Castle since the De'Aaron Fox trade, yeah, the first game with Atlanta wasn't great. Well, the last two have been great with De'Aaron Fox in the lineup, and he's played more minutes than Chris Paul in each of these games. He's looked awesome off the bench, and he's cheaper than Peyton Pritchard in a awesome spot, like against the worst defensive rated team in basketball. So like, I think there's I think I would lean, like if I was picking between the two in like a single entry or, if I would just had 5,800 left for, large field stuff, depending on who's in and who's out, if only Drew is out, I would lean Castle over Pritchard. If Boston's missing more key components, I'd probably give Pritchard a better look.
Castle, a guy who has been trending, gets better every game, week by week, just evolving. And I think that's a really good call. Obviously, he has this magical matchup with the Wizards, who we love to pick on every slate. One more, just backtracking, one more guy that was more expensive. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. I didn't write him up or anything, but if PJ Washington misses, I do have mild interest in Kyrie Irving for large field tournaments, simply because he should walk into any shot that he feasibly wants to take, as long as the game is kind of close and he's in there. And he's been shooting pretty poorly too.
42, 40, 42. Yeah. Guy with a back issue, and he's like in his mid 30s. It seems like a good plan for him to join Anthony Davis on the injury report sooner rather than later. What about when we start talking value? And guys, I'll get to your comments in a second. Des, congrats on your Eagles win, even though it really, really pained me to see. It's maybe the worst thing that could have happened yesterday in the Super Bowl. But congrats to you. We'll get to some more of the comments in a second. But what are we talking about when we go down to this value tier, 5,000 and under here, Justin?
Well, you're mainly talking about Bub, big minutes. I'm not crazy about his usage rates being in the teens. That's not great. He has averaged a respectable 10 potential assists per game across the last 3. So there gives you a little room for, to be optimistic. So he's going to need to see the ball go in. He isn't taking a ton of shots. He's been pretty efficient. So I am a little worried about that. But at 5K, I'm interested in, Ned, Larry, and Curly if they're playing 36, 30 minutes. So it's not my favorite, but it's a really interesting zone because you have Alvarado there, obviously without a host of Pelicans. Terrible matchup, though. And I know they're really shorthanded. I don't know if he falls into the threshold of I will play blowout run in the fourth quarter with who he means to that team right now. So that kind of sucks because he was the guy that would typically be the sixth man and potentially get some blowout run 3 weeks ago. And that's not the case right now, I don't think, if I had to guess.
There is a Pelicans point guard that I think would get that run. You just have to go down here to $3,200 Antonio Reeves. That's who I think you're looking at. And I see you're doing the Jack Nicholson yes meme right now. I actually like Reeves as like standalone play, and then he's going to get all blowout because they ruled out CJ, they ruled out Brandon Boston, and Reeves had been in the rotation the last 2 games a little bit anyways. Do you have like any interest? Maybe I'm biased. I won a GPP with this guy this year. So maybe I'm biased.
He blew up on?
Yes, this one. He came off the bench, and he was like 15% owned. And this is when the Pelicans had 8 guys, and I only played Antonio Reeves, and he was the only one that scored. So maybe I'm biased, but
no, that's the sole reason I have interest in it. Like, if you're gonna give me possibly 20 to 24 minutes of this guy.
He scored 34 actual in an NBA game.
Right.
Regardless of who was available.
In the corner, hope to hit my catch and shoot threes. he clearly has some incentive to play well with the ball in his hands. So, no, I like that call, and I do think there's a little bit of standalone value as well. And again, we're not predicting blowouts, but if there's a likely one, it's probably this one.
It would be this would be the one. If like you were to like circle one, you'd be like that one, even though it's like the NBA is and anything can happen. Anything else at point guard, or are you ready to go on a shooting guard?
Well, I mean, our most recent comment was about Keon, and I don't mind Keon. Cam Johnson's minutes are creeping up. If Russell's in, he's going to get his as well. I mean, Keon's been great. I think I would like Russell to sit to be like more interested in Keon. If he lands in a couple of my lineups, I'm okay with it. Super cheap though. Both team totals are really low. We're looking at like what, a 212, 213 total, something like that.
Yeah, it's 211. It's even worse than you thought. 211.
Yeah, I think I want Russell out of that lineup to play Keon. Again, he might land in a couple of my teams just off of a pivot from one of the chalkier guys we were kind of talking about. But it's in there. I mean, he's been really good. So if you want to roll with Keon in that salary range, I totally get it.
Dude, I was all in on him in the Miami game. And I tuned over to the game, and he was riding a stationary bike and got a technical foul on the bench. And I was like, oh, this is going to go well for me. And then he got all of his fantasy points in the fourth quarter. But I agree on the D'Lo front. I think we do need D'Lo to be out to like feel very comfortable about it. Before we head over to shooting guard, we'll get some comments in here. Julian saying, what's up? What's up, Julian? To you. Dre saying, what's up? What's up, Dre? Happy Monday. Power is playing 18% Yusuf Nurkic. That's about 18% more than I'm possibly playing, I guess, depending on who Charlotte does have in their lineup tonight. Dez, again, I'm reluctantly saying congratulations to you. I am a Giants fan, so there's, shot to the heart there. Marie Don Yeezy screaming at us here with a lot of exclamation points as well. So I'm not going to scream. But what's up, Don? How you doing? Justin, hello all. Justin, what's going on, brother? Let's keep it going tonight. Jerome in the chat, what's going on? Josh, that performance was mid. Honestly, don't know. I don't know when this comment came in, but yep, agreed. Totally, it was mid. Maybe Super Bowl. Maybe Super Bowl. We already touched on Anthony. Coach Chris agreeing that Stephon Castle is him. All caught up on the shooting guard. We go where. Anthony Edwards is questionable with the hip. Donovan Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox, Trey Murphy, Murray, and Brown. What do we like 8K and up, if anything?
Let's see here. 8K and up. I like De'Aaron Fox enough to probably play.
Big news. Tyler Hero ruled out with an illness. The first domino to fall here. Tyler Hero officially listed out with the illness.
Well,
didn't mean to cut you off, but that is obviously
not only that, but we got a Magic lineup at 5:20 Eastern.
Magic are great. I will say, like, that is the one most reliable team in the NBA for lineup and like ins and outs. You can always count on the Magic to get you your stuff early, right? Jalen Suggs ruled out, got the lineup 5:30. Tyler Hero ruled out. Jalen Suggs ruled out. Just rattling off some new stuff here. Trae Young available to play, which was expected. Cole Anthony going to start again. Not going to close, but will start. What do you think about Hero being out? I mean, they're playing him on the ball. Does Davion Mitchell start in his debut? Do they move Rozier into the starting lineup? Or at shooting guard, both those players do have shooting guard eligibility. Do you think it's just simply Rozier or Davion? Like, what is your assessment of Hero being out?
This game just suddenly became more interesting, both sides. Yep. I think there's more incentive to rest Jason Tatum now. If it's a decent illness, if something's going around on both sides, whatever it is. I mean, I know he wants to play in every city, but they're the same division. They'll see each other multiple times. It's fine. I mean,
the Miami flu.
those kids are already upset that they're not going to see Tyler Hero tonight anyway, so might as well double down and rest Tatum.
Oh boy, they'll never forget that one, huh?
Yeah. Well, I honestly, the biggest beneficiary could be Bam. I mean, it doesn't, the same position doesn't have to be affected. Of course, it will due to minutes, but I don't know what the usage hike's going to be. Of course, Wiggins is on the team now, so that's different. But let's not sleep on Bam. If Boston's going to be down a few starters and this game's kind of close, that becomes a contrarian play. I don't think the Hero news is going to move the needle on Bam that much, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind. The second one is how much are they going to let Andrew Wiggins play? I mean, he was playing great basketball here. You don't have Tyler Hero. Is there really any downside to letting this guy play like 32 to 34 minutes right now and have a chance to like try to figure it out?
No, we've seen that across the league too. I mean, Max Christie has played 30 plus minutes for Dallas right off rip, and like Butler played almost 30. We've seen the new faces in new places play in big minutes. Just looking at some things here, Justin, Bam Adebayo about a 3% usage bump without Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, up to about 26.5%, just under 26.5, 1.2 fantasy points per minute. So some good numbers for Bam. I was just curious on your thought, like Rozier, 24% usage. He gets a pretty good bump, 3% usage bump. Fantasy points per minute leave a little bit to be desired there. Jaquez isn't even there too. That's another piece of the puzzle for Miami. That's not. Wiggins is going to play big minutes without Jaquez, without Hero tonight. They're gonna run Wiggins into some big minutes right off rip. So
I think he's really interesting. I think is a name not many people are going to click. Rozier, listen, it just hasn't felt great all year to click his name as well, but. Coincidentally, after the whole, betting investigation fiasco, he's been playing pretty well. 4,800. He's been giving you 5 to 7x value at times over the last 2 weeks. I mean, he popped for 35 against Cleveland. The Spurs have been pretty good defensively, 36.5 against them. A complete dud in the best matchup against Chicago, of course, because it's the NBA. But I think Rozier becomes one of your first stops for cash games, and I think you can play him in all formats. I will say I'll feel better if, again, we're not predicting blowouts anymore for the most part, but I'll feel better if one of Brown or Tatum does miss tonight. So in theory, this game could be a little bit closer.
Removing Jaquez from the floor too, Terry Rozier gets a 5% usage bump, 26% usage. No Hero, no Butler, no Jaquez this year.
How many minutes? Do you have a minutes? Number
that is 140 minute sample.
Okay, I mean it's not no minutes. That's a respectable.
No, that's a good sample. Yeah, good sample.
We're talking about a guy who's been pretty bad most of the year too. So for him to have those numbers, I mean, bump up Rozier, bump up Bam. I'm saying like a sprinkle of Bam, right? Like I want to play the field of Bam. If it's a low number, I might try to go 2x on Bam. But Wiggins is really, really interesting. I can't remember if it's Baseball Forecaster that I read last year. I don't read many books, so it probably was. But he talked about calling like when players are on new teams, and this is baseball, but I think you could apply it to other sports. I think he called it like the courtship period or something strange. But it was just when players are in new scenarios and new situations, you kind of have to like toss analytics and the historical data aside for a time period because like we're dealing with such a volatile situation here.
Yes.
I mean, Jimmy Butler went to the Warriors. Like, I don't even know the plays. I'm just balling. And like you said in the previous one, went to the hoop and went to the hoop and went to the hoop and went to the hoop. So there's a chance Wiggins just does the same thing and just hoops tonight. And maybe he gives you 40 fantasy points.
Right. I agree. And, nothing like trying to impress your new teammates, right? Like that night, like you're arriving, like you just traded Jimmy Butler, who's been the cornerstone of your franchise. It's like, well, we traded him for you, so you got to be something similar to him. And I do think Andrew Wiggins has the goods there. But we got to see is Terry Rozier betting on himself tonight? I don't know. It remains to be seen.
Is that the under or the over? Like,
let's see. Yeah. What does Terry think? Has anyone asked Terry what his thoughts are on the game tonight? Getting back to shooting guard, we talked on the Heat situation now that Tyler Hero's been ruled out. What are some of your favorite mid-tier options? Or I don't even think we finished anything really at the top. Well, shooting guard in general, break it down like 7,000 and up. Like, who are some of your favorite targets?
7,000 and up. I don't love anyone. I do like De'Aaron Fox for a couple of the reasons we talked about. A is the Washington matchup. B, new team, trying to gel.
Yep.
Okay usage rate. He had a really nice game against Atlanta, and he's cheap. Like, even if he doesn't play the best at 8,300, he has an awesome matchup and a pretty high floor. Trey Murphy just balls out. And I mean, of course, no one's going to click that button against OKC, but I mean, good Lord. What more could we ask for from Trey Murphy? So I'm talking large field tournaments only, nothing crazy. Dyson Daniels, probably a crap game environment, but he can get there with steals and blocks in big time minutes. So these are all guys I don't mind sprinkling in. So I'm more on the mid range and cheap stuff here at shooting guard as of right now.
All right. I love Daniels, by the way. I feel like I'm getting Jalen Johnson production from Dyson Daniels. Minus like some points, but plus some peripheral stats. Like, this is what Jalen Johnson was doing at like high 8s before his injury. What do we got in the mid tier then? And please, like, if you're gonna just say Wizards, just like let me know, and so I could just like move. I can't take this chalk Wizard stuff anymore. We're in February, man. Like, I'm prepared to play the Wizards when it's April, but like, Is it Koulibaly? Just say it? Is it Koulibaly that you like here on the mid tier?
It depends. I mean, I have to do some refreshing, but I'm not seeing massive ownership numbers on these guys right now. And of course that could change. But with news like the Miami news breaking, that's only most likely going to make those numbers decrease a little bit. So yeah, is Bilal a little overpriced? Probably, but he's kind of a beast. And if we're seeing that ownership under 20%, then I'm interested. I think it just kind of circles back. A lot of these positions overlap, by the way, right? Pritchard, Castle, point guard, shooting guard, Bub, point guard, shooting guard. God, I kind of miss the old days of less position flexibility where your stands mattered more, because we're kind of just repeating ourselves here. So not a ton different than we already talked about. Of course, Buddy Hield's an interesting talking point. Of Steph Curry has that Q tag. I think Curry plays. We can't trust Steve Kerr as far as we could throw him. Moses Moody appears to be healthy. Pods is healthy, but they're still missing, Wiggins and Anderson and a couple of guys. So I think Hield, is worth a little bit of a discussion here. I'm not sure what his ceiling is at this price in his current role, but I don't hate the Buddy Hield thing. And that goes for pods. If you do think Curry misses, then obviously maybe you build in some pods early. But my hunch is that Curry plays. Yeah,
going through shoot around this morning, I think Curry plays too. Steve Kerr, in Steve Kerr fashion, did play 10 guys in the first half last game in Jimmy Butler's debut. So it's always fun when a team's just like, hey, how about all 10 of you play in the first quarter? So it's fun. But I agree. There isn't a lot of like anything that we haven't talked about. Nick Smith, I think, could be a little bit interesting. He's getting some ownership tonight. $4,000. Really for no reason. Just maybe the injury. Like, he missed a game and they were like, the algorithm thought he just DMP'd, so they like dropped his price for. But the 4 games prior, Nick Smith had 27 plus fantasy points, 19 plus actual points, 30 plus minutes. That's not going to change if he starts here. If Nick Smith plays, or do we have interest here?
Yeah, definitely. And he flashes usage rates that are fairly consistently above 20. A couple duds here or there, but more times than not, he's giving you a 20+% usage rate, big minutes. We talk about the slow matchup, but Brooklyn is bad defensively. I have no reason to not play a bunch of Nick Smith. If he starts and he's in, then I'm in.
I'm just laughing here at Anthony's comment. Yo, Grande, great day in Philly. Evil Empire went down. Yes, thank you, Anthony. We appreciate it very much. Yes, thank you. Julian Strother thoughts if Michael Porter Jr. sits.
Yeah, he's in play for sure. He had a hell game on Friday, I think.
It was really bad. It was really bad. It was his first career start. Very bad.
Right. And then he rebounded nicely in the Phoenix game, 38 minutes, 20.5 fantasy points. Aaron Gordon's role continues to, be more of a factor.
Yep.
So like Strother's not 3,800 anymore. It's 4,500. So
yes, that's the key.
I would just be a little wary of it. So yeah, he's fine. I don't know how invested I'll be, but try to build him in a little bit here.
I think the price, I'm priced out. I'm priced out at 4,500. I think there's a couple guys that you could get to. We don't know the Damian Lillard status. We already know the Giannis status. Gary Trent is someone who's cheaper, who has played equal minutes to Julian Strawther. And is Gary Trent and Julian Strawther, like, is that not like the Spider-Man meme where they're both on the floor to space and knock down threes, and one's $600 cheaper, possibly without their starting point guard today, and without one of the three best players on the planet? Like, I just feel like I would prefer Trent in most scenarios. Same positional eligibility as Strawther too. Do you agree? The only difference would be, obviously Strawther would be significantly lower owned. Gary Trent's getting a lot of ownership today.
Yeah, Trent's been pretty good lately. Minutes, shooting the ball, things you like to see. Yeah. I like Gary Trent. What do you need from, if anything, or not at all? It might be a hard pass. But Jordan Hawkins, what do you like? Do you have any interest? Do you need something else to happen in New Orleans, or like is he too? I mean, is he a blowout run candidate? I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, he's live to start. I mean, he probably starts here, right? No McCollum. Do they go? Messi, Zion, Murphy, Alvarado. Who's your fifth starter? Javonte Green or Jordan Hawkins, right?
They love to start Javonte Green.
They do love starting. They do. They do. It is a weird thing.
But I wouldn't mind if Hawkins does come off the bench. If you're like pulling for Hawkins, because then maybe they'll just be like, yeah, we'll leave him out there. I mean,
he did have a couple games in January where he played big minutes. We know Jordan Hawkins is, he came into last year's draft as like, this guy will get you a bucket. He is a bucket maker. So, yeah, I would have mild interest. I probably in most scenarios, I would get to Antonio Reeves ahead of him for cheaper, but like that's ownership also reflects that. So that's not like a, gotcha moment. Like it's, a few notes here. Anthony Edwards is officially listed as a game time decision here. Alex Rodriguez is now the new official owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Kyrie Irving is named the all-star replacement for Anthony Davis. So maybe some narrative for all those that like narratives. I don't, but all those that like having fun. Kyrie Irving all-star game narrative now in play. Let's head over to small forward Jason Tatum. We just had this comment a few seconds ago from Power, and I wanted to get your take on it, and if this is maybe a trend. Power says the spread just moved half a point in favor of Miami with the news that Tyler Hero is out. And I only bring that up. We're here at Jason Tatum. Not present at shoot around this morning with a knee, him and Jaylen Brown both. Are we thinking more along the lines of like, it's 6.5. Is Boston a 6.5 point favorite if Tatum and Brown sit? I don't. I don't think so. You think they're still 6.5 point favorites if on the road if both Tatum and Brown sit? I don't. If they both were to sit, I don't think so. I mean, they're good. They're obviously great.
It's half a point, and I know it happened quickly, but just for playing devil's advocate here, I'm seeing 6.5 at FanDuel, ESPN, BetMGM, and DraftKings. I'm still seeing 6 at 365, Caesars, Bally Bet, and Bet Rivers. So it's not like the entire industry flipped this thing. So Again, I think one of those studs are going to. If I had to guess right now, I think Jaylen Brown or Tatum sit, and maybe both. So I'm not sure if it's Vegas if it's a Vegas thing or, one whale bet at one of the books won't move all of the books half a point.
Sure.
But I do think there is merit to saying, yeah, I think one of those does do say. No, I don't know. It's tough to handicap, a little tougher than usual. I've been pretty good with the Jokic saga like a month ago. Some of those spreads were kind of telling. When I was on a good run of guessing whether he was in or out. But no, it's something to definitely keep track of. I think if you see some more movement, if that thing maybe goes to 7 at a book you're tracking, then maybe maybe the red flags start to raise a little bit.
I just saw it move live here on FanDuel Sportsbook to 6.
Freaking Terry Rozier, man. I'm just kidding.
This is all Terry Rozier's fault, right? I mean, we're talking about betting implications in a game Terry Rozier is involved in, so that is a little bit interesting. What else at the top of small forward? Talk to me about Franz, because Franz has been definitively the best Magic player. He has been better than Paolo Banchero since they've both returned. Do you have Franz Wagner in your player pool at 8,500 tonight?
Yeah, I do. And I'm on the Playbook, but I'm also on the show. So after 6-ish, I'm going to drop some core plays, get in our Discord with us, especially on chaotic nights like this where we're building our lineups. That's our quickest way to give you our updated core plays and things like that. You can argue the Dyson Daniels thing, but it's the NBA. Everyone switches, and Wagner's got some height on him too. This is a guy who's played on the national stage in the Olympics over the summer, and he played really well. So I can't say that I don't care about Dyson Daniels' defense. I'm not going to say that, but I care a lot less than probably the next person probably does. He's objectively playing better than Paolo is too right now. So I think he's going to be the first guy to get as many shots as he can handle tonight. I think it's a great price, a really high floor, great game environment, huge pace up spot. I think it's a great play.
Agreed. The Great Barrier Thief is great at, playing defense, but as you said, everyone switches to the NBA. Franz Wagner, very good at 85. Heading down to the mid tier, to Jimmy or not to Jimmy at 7,800.
Oh man,
I know. I agree. That is my feelings as well.
It's probably a pass from me.
Okay.
I'm not going out of my way to get Jimmy Butler tonight.
Okay.
I want the Boston news to break sooner than later. 701's fine, because then if Tatum's in and Brown's out, then you're probably playing Tatum. You're probably just living with the results at small forward.
Well, and vice versa, right? For $200 more, you would get, if Tatum sits, you're getting Brown and you probably more likely than not have $200 sitting around for those that play single entry, for cash, whatever. So I agree. Let's get the Boston news before we commit to Jimmy, but obviously good to see Jimmy Butler aggressive again, because he was clearly sabotaging the Miami Heat. Miami Heat did just release Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, and Kyle Anderson, all available to play this evening. You've already given your take on a $6,500 Andrew Wiggins, no Tyler Hero, no Jaime Jaquez, no Jimmy Butler. You like Andrew Wiggins in tournaments. What about the rest of the mid-tier? Dude, I've been trying to scream it from the rooftops to anybody that will listen about Denver, and there's just some teams in the NBA that you have to play in most situations. And those teams are the ones that don't run deep rotations. Denver has 2 members, Peyton Watson and Russell Westbrook, out. They are not giving anyone minutes, outside of 7 players, 7.5 when you count Jalen Pickett's 12 minutes a night. If Michael Porter plays, firmly entrenched in our player pool, right? Really great mid-tier option.
Definitely. And, that's a later game, so you might get generous ownership on Michael Porter. 9:00 game. Hold on, let me just look at the schedule. I mean, you would hope to get that news before 8:00, because then you have 4 total games on DraftKings to play with. But, as you get closer to that 9:00 tip, which is the nightcap, you're going to pause me because I paused you the other day, aren't you? you're kind of playing with fire there. It's a risk I kind of want to take. But PJ Washington's position overlaps with him at power forward. So if you're playing a numbers game, you think one of them play, maybe build. Yep. The problem is both of them can be really strong plays. Yes. And I kind of would like a couple of builds with both of them if we're talking about this range. PJ's been dynamite this season.
He has. Sure. Yep.
So
without Luka. And guess what? He doesn't play with Luka anymore. That guy is gone. So that guy, that overweight guy is gone. You traded for the guy that also is not often healthy. Anyways,
real quick, if there was no Q tags in that range, I prefer both of them over Wiggins tonight. I really would probably only play Wiggins in the lotto, the $3, $5, whatever.
Agreed. Yes, I fully agree, but I do think like it is a viable thought. Like Boston could be down multiple key pieces. They're already down one of their best perimeter defenders, and Miami's down. Hawkins does a lot of ball handling for them. So does obviously Tyler Hero, who starts at point guard for them. So the offense is going to go through Bam Adebayo, but expect Andrew Wiggins to have a sizable role off rip. When we move down the list, would we play Jaden McDaniels if Anthony Edwards is ruled out?
God.
I have to ask, right? I got to ask.
Yeah.
He's really good the other day. And, for what it's worth, Portland, #1 rated defense in the month of February.
Now do Cleveland over the last 10 games. They're like outside the top 20 or something like that.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, and I was kind of hoping you wouldn't because I wanted to put you on the spot. But, if you're playing single entry, the answer for me is no. If you're playing 100 teams or 50 teams and you're looking for a way to differentiate your lineup and you're willing to take a risk, then I think you can. He always had untapped potential, I feel like, offensively. Maybe there's a chance that some of this is sticky. He's always been aggressive and a great defender. But like if Ant sits, I don't think he's going to be that chalky because of the price and the matchup and the gap in the team totals here between Cleveland and Minnesota. So he's a large field sprinkle that has super high upside if all things work out, though.
We've seen this. The field will just shift right to Naz Reid. They will just take all of their ownership and hand it to Naz Reid, and no one else gets any of it. But that's, I think, kind of a mistake. What else do we got? Value. Everyone's playing Kyle Kuzma. I assume you're playing Kyle Kuzma.
Yep.
Your best friend's playing Kyle Kuzma. Your best friend's playing Kyle. Like we're just all the homies are playing Kyle Kuzma tonight.
Yep, and they should. They should be playing Kyle Kuzma.
I agree, and possibly without Damian Lillard as well. So like Kuzma's back in his element.
Then it just gets
then it's going to be silly for Milwaukee tonight. What else do we got? Anything differentiating from the field? Anything with the field? What else?
Well,
what else is the value tier?
Again, a play that's not pleasant, but it's worth thinking about Alex Caruso without Isaiah Joe and Kaysen Wallace. Guy's burnt me a lot this year because he projects pretty well around that like 36 to 41 range in terms of salary. No one's going to play him. Like no one's going to roster this guy. And he's been extremely underwhelming this year. He was like some marquee signing in OKC touting him in the offseason. Like, this is the game changer. And he's done nothing to change the game. But they're down a few bodies at the guard position. And, again, he won't play blowout runs, so that is a concern. I don't think anyway. I mean, with all the injuries he's dealt with. So, I don't know. But he's a thought. He's a thought on this slate. He's a thought.
My only rebuttal would be they did get Lou Dort back, and they are getting Chet back, second leg of a back-to-back. So both those players being there, I would be surprised if he played 27 minutes again. But obviously, if he got there, then it's viable. Looking at some ownership stuff, Keyshawn George is going to be popular at 43. We've repeatedly said the same thing with him all year. He's a rookie that if he makes your shots, he has a high ceiling. And if he misses them, he has an incredibly low floor, right? I mean, it's just he is a 0 if he misses shots, but he is 4,300. I think that's a pretty good price.
Agreed. However, the minutes like have only recently become that much better. So it's
sure.
Of course, he's supposed to hit some shots because he's not 3,600 anymore. But
yes.
like now the minutes are like, yeah, you're gonna play. So
yeah, no Kuzma. Yeah, Kuzma gone, and now you're just playing. Right.
Yeah. So no, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's I feel better about him than I did 4 weeks ago when he was oftentimes in the tournament conversation. So
I gotta ask, he's getting ownership. Would you?
They love starting Javonte Green, man. They absolutely love it. They love it. I'll probably be under the field on whatever the number is.
He's 15%. I'd be under. If I'm MMEing, I'm under. I'm under 15%.
Yeah, we'll probably be under on that for sure.
Oh God, they really. Why? Why do teams love Javonte Green?
Got a Niang question, a Niang comment, Neon question.
Yeah, we're heading to power forward, so that's perfect. What do we make of him? Because I pled my case on the pre-show this morning. I love the fit playing with Trae Young and a coach that he's already played for in Quinn Snyder. What say you about Georges Niang here, Justin?
Another guy who has to hit the shots. Yep. It's a brutal game environment.
Yep.
I worry a little bit about foul trouble. He's going to be oftentimes switching on the two highest used Magic players who are going to be aggressive. The price is always up. Is also up. So yeah, I'm a Niang guy. I love when he was with Philly with the Sixers. One of my favorite players to watch. I liked him in college, Iowa State. He was one of them herky-jerky guys that dominated at the D1 level because he was just such an odd fit. It's just a brutal game environment. But yeah, like large field tournament stuff, no problem with a couple shares of Niang because 26 minutes is real. And I think he's a real part of this rotation, at least for the foreseeable future.
Starting power forward, career 40% three-point shooter, Georges Niang, by the way. And he's playing with the best passer in the NBA right now. Trae Young, 12 assists, almost 12 assists per game. I think that's not a coincidence, right? No, one lineup, we're not playing Javonte Green to Prince. Please adjust the lineup accordingly. No Javonte Green. Coming from someone who's playing one lineup and, like Justin said, banging their head on the desk. I am playing one lineup, but I will not have Javonte Green included. Let's go to the top of power forward, where there are some interesting names at the 8K range. I think is a very interesting tier. Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball is back here, but he is playing some good basketball. 8,800. Oh boy, Zion is just an absolute machine, but this is an absolute abysmal spot. It hasn't really mattered for Zion, but we know there's probably a limit. Evan Mobley, 84, Paolo Banchero, 83, Bam, now 8K. What do we make of this pretty loaded $8,000 tier?
I think Bam becomes the most appealing one to me,
Agreed.
Setting Jason Tatum aside here at the top. But, the Zion thing, does it really matter if that game blows out? If he's going to give you 26 to 28, I mean, how much time is he actually going to miss in the fourth quarter? So either he's having that 40% usage rate and he has 40 fantasy points through 3, and then he just doesn't play and it's whatever. I mean, those are just ludicrous numbers. And he's been really efficient too, so that does kind of worry me a little bit. But, man, I probably won't have a ton of him. But I'm okay with a few shares if you're multi-entering.
Some interesting news. D'Angelo Russell available to play. Max Strus out for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Does that put newcomer DeAndre Hunter into the starting lineup? And does that put DeAndre Hunter into our radar, not on the injury report headed into this game? Obviously not a great matchup. He was a very coveted piece at the trade deadline, obviously. Would you play DeAndre Hunter at $5,200 if we get a starting lineup that includes him at small forward?
Yeah, I'd be interested.
Because what else would Atlanta do, or what else would Cleveland do with their starting lineup, other than like Sam Merrill? I guess could technically be their fifth starter. I don't think they would go three guard.
Other than that, or you sneak in some Jalen Tyson minutes. I mean,
Jalen Tyson, yeah,
you're probably looking at 32 to 35 Hunter minutes now if the game is competitive. Don't love the game environment, but I mean, he's been a bucket all year. Look, his parting gift was actually grabbing 10 rebounds for once.
After zero the game before. Worst rebounding like 6'7" player I've ever seen. Yeah. I put him up there. I put him up at the top of the list.
It's sad.
Yeah, it's bad. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Max Strus being out obviously means something here. What else do we got at power forward? I don't think Chet plays the minutes at 76 to get us there. PJ is someone you mentioned, small forward, power forward, eligible. Pretty bad sprain. Kind of surprised they listed him as questionable here, but if he plays, obviously he's good enough to go. Naz Reid, Denny Avdia, Portis.
Yep.
We've had a lot of Portis comments. It's probably Portis here in this tier, right?
It's Portis. I mean, massive price discrepancy between sites, though, by the way. Like, you have to at least think about it on FanDuel, and you're probably just still playing with him. I think he's like 8,400, if I remember correctly. But
8,400.
63 is too cheap for Bobby Portis tonight in this scenario. And he's arguably the best play per dollar on the slate with his buddy Kyle Kuzma. I will say, though, like, if Naz Reid is still going to be pushing 40 minutes, I don't care if they're playing the 0-1 Lakers. I'm going to play Naz Reid to some capacity. So if Portis wasn't on this slate in the same tier, we'd probably be looking at like 40% Naz Reid instead of, I don't know, the 20% he might be coming in at right now or whatever it is.
Naz Reid, 11%.
Give me that all day. Yeah, like, come on, man. We've been begging for Naz Reid minutes to this extent for 2.5 years, and we're finally getting them. Love it. Tough, brutal matchup, though, for sure. But guy's a bucket. Big minutes. If Edwards is out, I mean, if this game is somehow close in the fourth, I would bet Naz Reid has something to do with it.
I agree. And you already pointed it out. Cleveland's defense has not been the same as it's been as it was earlier in the year. And I think Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro, their best two perimeter defenders, not being there does matter to that extent. What about value? What do we got here at the power forward spot? We talked Kuzma. Jovic is someone that probably benefits from Tyler Hero being out. He's a very good secondary ball handler. They have. Yeah. What else in the value range at power forward?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I guess you think about Makovich at power forward center, Kaishan overlap, small forward, power forward, Horford, if Tatum, even Horford is a possible standalone, 3,900.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I know. He's burnt me big time this year too. But if Tatum misses, I'm for sure interested.
You would need, for Horford, I need one of those guys out because he just doesn't get shot volume. There's just not enough shots for Al Horford to.
It's fair.
But he's going to start. He's going to probably get near 30 minutes. And
other than that, power forward just looks like a prime position to hit the mid-range on with some of those guys we were just talking about.
Then let's hit center and talk about why Nikola Jokic is the best tournament play of the slate. Not that you guys tune in and hear anything different from us daily. But Nikola Jokic is 9%.
Yeah.
9. The number 9. The number before 10 and after 8. Why?
Yeah, I mean,
why?
Oh, it's been 2 whole games since he dropped 70, right? Ooh. Like,
he hasn't played the fourth quarter in either of the last 2 games. And I feel like people are kind of disrespecting how good Portland's been during this.
Yeah, I mean, point guard's so loaded up top. I mean, I know there wasn't a ton of projected ownership at point guard other than Lillard and Curry, but it's enough. And then you have enough studs at point guard that are coming in at, 8 to 15%, where it kind of just adds up, where there's a lot of ways to build. And I do think there are some really good center options, and maybe that also has something to do with it. Obviously, Wemby's on the slate in the brilliant Wizards matchup. By the way, Wemby probably not catching nearly enough ownership in that Wizards matchup either. It's loaded. Sabonis, Porzingis possibly without his friends in the lineup could be a really underrated piece here as well. Bam, we just talked about in the same game. Portis plays center. There's going to be plenty of lineups with Portis at center as well. Jared Allen's really cheap, gives you a high floor. Even Nick Claxton against Charlotte. I'm just rattling all these guys off because they're guys I'm considering and will be in on to some extent. But the longer Nikola Jokic is here with a 9% attached to his name, like I want at least 20 of it. I want 20% at least of Nikola Jokic who's coming in at 9%.
Just got the word from Derek White and or from Joe Mazzulla and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are game time decisions, because that's very predictable. A very predictable thing. Yeah, this is very predictable. Any interest in Moussa Diabate if he plays? And if he doesn't, are we going to play Yusuf Nurkic?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll play some Nurkic. Speaking about the new face on a new team and the human side of things, like nobody wanted him, and then they were forced to bring Mark Williams back. So I think he always had the FU attitude, right? And just the legend chip on his shoulder, and of course they got rid of him for Jokic. Well, I mean, to pave the way for Jokic years ago in Denver, which was obviously the correct decision. I'm not saying by any means. It happened. So I feel like there's always a little extra juice. Let's be real. Nurkic was priced mid 5, 6K, and he was performing at a decent per minute rate. That was never his problem. I mean, there were some games in Phoenix where he was playing 20 to 25 minutes, and he would crush at times. So I'm not saying I'll have 18% of him if Diabate is in, but I definitely want some pieces of Nurkic, and if he's out, then I'm really interested. I am. I feel like a little bit of a clown here, right?
No. Why?
Because center's loaded, but
yes,
at the same time,
it's loaded, but also, being a good fantasy player and being a really good NBA player are not the same thing. Yusuf Nurkic is a really good fantasy player when he gets minutes, right? If Yusuf Nurkic gets mid-20s, high 20s minutes on a Charlotte Hornets team against Brooklyn, he might score 40 fantasy points.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm totally going to blow up my bills to jam in 40% of Nurk, but compared to his peers in the value range, he has so many more ways to score easier than a Javonte Green or someone that doesn't have a usage rate, because Nurk does have some usage, and he grabs a ton of rebounds. And he, has a couple of assists, blocks some shots. He's just so much more appealing of a play because he can do so much more with little time on the court.
Just saw an ownership update happen. Moussa Diabate now the second highest rostered center of the day. That update also moved Nikola Jokic's ownership down to 7%. So it's going the opposite direction as we get closer to the roster lock. Anything else worth talking about at center? I see Rashawn Holmes getting some ownership. Daniel Gafford's getting some ownership. Any interest in Holmes or Daniel Gafford?
I have interest in Gafford. He had some really brutal matchups. Detroit's no slouch anymore. He still had 43 fantasy points. He drew Embiid coming back, and Embiid looked really good. Took him behind the shed. That's fine. Boston, tough matchup. Still had 37 and 33 minutes. Houston, he only played 25 minutes in. And now he gets a pretty nice get-right matchup. I know the Kings have been much better defensively, but when it comes to points in the paint and defense inside, Sabonis is not that guy. So I do like Gafford tonight. I think there's some merit to going back to him for sure.
I Absolutely agree. Let's get a lineup built for the folks at home quickly. We'll do this in tournament fashion. As you can see, this is the $5, the large, their large tournament, 100K to first here. How do we want to start our build? If you were building out like a core tonight, what would Jokic be your primary tournament target here?
It's tough to say because I also like Wemby if we're talking large field stuff, but I think you need one of the $3 at a minimum, and one of the $3 meaning Portis, Kuzma, or Damon. You probably need two of them, and those are probably the two that I would prioritize just with how many options are at point guard, and obviously they're the two cheapest of the three as well. So you just might need the raw points. You just might need it tonight.
We talked pretty extensively about T Rose betting on himself tonight. I'm also going to bet on some T Rose. 29% of the field have shifted to Terry Rozier. If we're talking about spend ups, who is Jokic the favorite spend up, and if not, who else would you be looking to get to tonight?
Yeah, it's Jokic. It could be Tatum.
Could be Tatum.
We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Jokic for me. But like, I also like Wemby. I also like Gafford. I could totally flip this build and play Nurkic if Diabate sits. Yeah, I mean, if you put Jokic in there, I'm multitasking. How much money per spot do we have left?
Jokic would be $5,200.
I mean, you can still work with that on this slate pretty easily.
Yes. I think probably you could also always move Scary Terry to point guard if we needed and play like a Nick Smith or a Antonio Reeves or someone of that ilk to get save some salary. Like if you paired Jokic with Antonio Reeves tonight, that puts you back to $5,900 a player. I do think the Antonio Reeves ownership completely tanked because we have Rozier stuff here. Would you still play Reeves now that we have like other value, or is Reeves like out of your player pool?
If we want to assume that Tatum and Brown sit, I think you probably play. You can definitely play White. And I think you can play Pritchard in tournaments. I mean, our guy Castle is sitting there too.
Yeah, let's play Castle. Let's play Castle. Let's not overthink that.
What a nice way to differentiate your lineup in a smash matchup is Mr. Castle. And Jokic. Yeah. I mean, boom, right there. You're not worried about Kuzma and Portis anymore because you have two guys that are going probably way under-owned that are in nice spots.
Keyshawn George probably provides us with some good value at forward.
I like him a lot too. I wasn't sure if you were indifferent about him when we talked, but I think his minutes are just really secure, and I don't think he's going to kill you. I think that's the big thing.
I was just talking crap. I just can't play the Wizards. I mean, they might be the worst team of all time, and so playing a lot of the Wizards. Huh?
It's the brutal game we play. We're cramming in bad players on a bad team.
It is the brutal game we play. What else we got? We got 60 or 5,600 for a guard and a util.
Well, I again, we're waiting on Charlotte news, but I do like Nick Smith at 4K.
I agree.
I think that's really nice. And I think if you want to like hedge scenarios, you can. Oh man, that gives you 72. That's nice. Because we just have that mid range. We have PJ Naz Reid territory, Michael Porter. If you want to,
we'll play PJ. We have the salary. Obviously, we have the salary. If MPJ plays, we can go there. If PJ doesn't, so
hypothetically, I like that build. Hypothetically, let's say Diabate's out, and I think he's another one we could consider in this build too. But if he's out, like if you put Nurkic at utility, what kind of guard money do you have? Or whatever, Jokic. Yeah. I mean, boy, you can really
puts you in a pool. You could dive into the pool here. There's a pool party waiting to happen, or
you love the Wizards. I mean, why not?
No, I don't. But like, this is what happens every slate. The money just works for the freaking Wizards.
I mean, look at the hypothetical ceilings. I mean, of course, it's a little scary, but I mean, boy.
It's a good lineup. It's a good lineup. And you're going to get a sub 10% Jokic in the late window to top it all off, right?
And probably a Castle that's 10% or less as well.
Yep, and a Castle that's 10% or less. So Stephon Castle, Terry Rozier, Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, Yusuf Nurkic, Jordan Poole, Keyshawn George, Nikola Jokic. $200 left over. Big shout out to Justin on the show today for coming in, stopping by. Big shout out to everyone in the chat dropping their comments, except Anthony, because I can't stand the Eagles and watching them win. But just kidding, Anthony. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you to all of you. We'll be back again tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, big thanks to Justin. We're out. Peace.